Assalamu alaikum viewers, I am your host Muslim bin Akil with a new episode of Legal Opinion. Today as guest we have Mr. Taimur Khan, who is the former consultant to Attorney General of Pakistan and holds expertise in corporate, constitutional and finance. Mr. Taimur Khan holds LLM degree from University of California, Los Angeles, US, and he holds an MBA in Banking and Finance. He has specialization in clinical finance from Anderson School of Management. Sir, welcome to the show. Sir, our very first question is, how was your journey from being a law student to a successful lawyer?
Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me, and let me just first acknowledge Gitana Law Chambers for this wonderful initiative of inviting various lawyers and barristers from different backgrounds and practicing different fields of law and putting them through this Q&A session. I think this is not just informative, but really helps better understand the nuances and aspects of the legal profession as well as different fields of law. So as far as my background goes, I was all set to become an engineer. I had in fact secured admission at some of the top universities. But what changed my mind was that I wanted to be in a profession where I could make a difference.
Sir, talking about the public-private partnerships, we would like to know what are the laws, what are the components and what are the requirements for public-private partnerships?
Okay, so public-private partnership is somewhat of a new invention, which even though worldwide has been principally followed for many years, but in Pakistan the idea is only gaining momentum. Now there are some projects, and we have actually executed the first BOT in the road communication sector, many other BOT concession agreements. So the idea of public-private partnership, and I would like to raise awareness and educate your audience about what public-private partnership is.
Right.
That in terms of infrastructure, the government, the public sector is always constrained in terms of their resources, their budgetary allocations. They usually don't have the money. So for instance, if there's a bridge and the cost that would be incurred in developing and constructing the bridge is too high for the government to handle, what it does is that it invites the private sector to join in a form of a partnership. So in any particular example, so for instance, if we take the example of BOT, which is build, operate, transfer. What the public sector does is that it would give you the facility, the land that would be required to continue, and then the private sector, be it a concessionaire, he would inject the money, the investment that would be required, the expertise, over a period of concession, so that he can generate his revenue and recover his initial cash outflow from the user fees that would be paid by the folks who would be traveling on the bridge. And then after a period of concession, once he has recovered his initial cash outflow and a little bit of profit, the whole built-up infrastructure facility actually reverts back to the government free of any cost. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. The government gets the best infrastructure, the public find that this civic service is being provided, and the private sector, the private person also ends up making a little bit of money.
Sure, sir. Sir, as our viewers are from the different areas of life, like we have the legal fraternity and there are other people, there are the law students. So would you like to tell our law students and the people who don't understand these things in a much critical way that what actually is the importance of infrastructure development law?
You see, if you examine some of the reports and some of the findings of World Bank, Asian Development Bank, you'll see them often saying that infrastructure development is interlinked with poverty alleviation. If you want to alleviate poverty, there has to be emphasis placed on infrastructure. A good infrastructure helps stimulate the economy, it creates jobs, and in general the whole economical output of your country actually gains a great deal of momentum. So, I recently returned from the United States. I was at JFK, and if you compare the infrastructure at JFK with that of Dubai or UAE, you would be surprised, because the infrastructure in America is also failing. They're not investing that much in building America, whereas in UAE and Dubai you would see state-of-the-art, 5-star level infrastructure projects. And we had somewhat of a break that the CEO of Amar actually came to Pakistan, and he actually told us how Dubai transformed itself. 50 years back Dubai was nothing, UAE. It was just barren desert. How is it possible that in just the course of 50 years they have become the biggest metropolitan, the most advanced city you could think of? They have the most advanced infrastructure. And he said, there was a simple formula we followed. So instead, if you conceptualize, if there's 100% of land available in Dubai, we offered the first tranche of 30% of land to some of the biggest names in industries, in hotel, tourism, shopping plazas, and biggest names, and we offered them our land for free, for 1 dirham. That was the cost, but there was a condition. that they had to develop their project in just a course of 1 year. Anything above, there would be so many punitive damages that ultimately the same thing would apply. So ultimately everyone went in, they developed some of the finest 5 stars, some of the finest shopping malls in just the course of 1 year. And then they offered the next tranche of 30% at a higher rate, and then the last remaining 30% at some of the most highest rates. Because once you see that there's so much infrastructure, there's so much life coming out, people would be drawn to it. Now in India they're doing the same thing. That so many hotel projects are being developed by foreign biggest names in the industry. And they're offering big, huge acreage of lands for as less as 100 rupees. This is how you attract, this is how you incentivize infrastructure development. Now if you look at Pakistan, Pakistan is a beautiful country, no doubt. And we get to hear that a lot of foreigners come to K2, they want to climb that mountain, but there's no infrastructure built. You know, if you just had some form of infrastructure, some place people could dine in, dine out, stay, rest, something which would educate them about K2, you could actually be making a lot of money. You think about Miawali, Chashma Barrage, 20 years back people used to come and have picnics, but they never had any place to sit. Still the situation persists, they have no place to sit. You can establish so much interest, and there are so many beautiful cities. You have Savad, Gilgit, Aptabad, and some of the beautiful places and the cities, but we see the government simply failing to invest that infrastructure, not knowing how much of an economical activity this loan transaction can boost up. Now, in my humble opinion, since infrastructure development is all over recognized as one of the most important things that a state should do, and now that we have a new political government in power, Naya Pakistan as they say, and they have also reiterated their firm commitment that every year there will be at least 4 or 5 big size mega infrastructure projects to be set up so that we can boost our economy and we can stimulate. And to facilitate all of this in Pakistan, I think would certainly be the need of the hour.
Sir, if we talk about the infrastructure law and development, like for example when the cases are taken to the court and we put in the international case laws, so how much helpful are the international case laws to address the infrastructure development over here in Pakistan?
So I have been principally involved in many of the High Court litigation concerning infrastructure projects. What I was talking about was about formation of SPVs. And many a times petitions are filed that the concession agreement was not awarded on basis of principles and so forth. And as I mentioned earlier, that at the Attorney General Office, one of the things which I learned myself is that a foreign judgment is a very important sort of piece of arsenal for a lawyer. I mean, whenever a case is called, whenever a case is heard, lawyers would always practice and they would do their research, they would come duly prepared with all the relevant local law and judgments that are available. But if you, like I said, want a little bit of edge over the other, or sometimes it so happens that you just can't find a good judgment supporting your proposition in law, then you must have a foreign judgment. A foreign judgment is vital, in my opinion. I mean, it does vary from judge to judge, but most of the judges, from my own personal experience, is that they do take a great deal of interest. They usually just step back and they are like in awe that this is such a good judgment, that they would like to quote it somewhere else. So if you can find something, a local judgment on the proposition of law you're looking up, fine, and even otherwise, you should always come prepared with a foreign judgment, even though it's not binding. Because you see, under Pakistani law, the foreign judgment which has been given, the laws under which this judgment was rendered, that law may not be the same. So even though we say that the peri materia provision, as close as possible, could perhaps be found in a foreign statute, but since it cannot be the same. I mean, even in India, if you look at the Limitation Act, if you look at Transfer of Property Act, if you look at most of the similar acts, even CPC, CRPC, we pretty much have the same thing, though it has been amended, even though there may be a similar perimeter, and that's why the most judgments quoted from a foreign jurisdiction would be Indian judgments. They, though are not binding, but like I said, they have a great deal of persuasive value. In terms of litigation of SPVs, initially these laws that I talked about, the Punjab Public-Private Partnership Act, and that the federal and at the local level had not been enacted. And so there was a lot of concern whenever an SPV or a concession agreement was challenged, that judges would really have to think about whether it should fulfill the criteria of a normal contract. Whenever government gives a contract to someone, it is usually the government that is paying the private party. But in BOT and public-private partnerships, the government pays zero, zilch, dota, nothing. And so they cannot be looked upon or judged upon under the same prism as may be the case with other concessions, with other contracts. And so the enactment of these laws would certainly go a long way in addressing those concerns and helping these concessionaires every time that they receive notice from a court that their contract is about to be terminated.
So we'll be moving to our very next round, that is the rapid fire round, and we'll be asking the questions from your personal life. Like the very first question that I would like to ask from the rapid fire round is, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food is Japanese sushi.
Japanese sushi.
And even though many of the friends that I go out with, nobody likes going to a Japanese restaurant. My mother hates it the most. She thinks that people should just stay away from Japanese food. Even my friends, I have to beg them often at times just to ask them to come and have sushi with me. But fortunately, my wife is a big fan of sushi, so that works out well.
Sir, who's your favorite actress?
Local or international?
Both.
But that's a tricky question. So there are a lot of stars, and I see that there's a lot of talent. And again, there are not enough opportunities, and there can be so many actresses and actors. I think primarily Taimur Khan is doing very well, and there are other great actors as well. I'm not saying that there's one person, there's one actor, or there's one actress, but there's always room for so many more. And
Right.
yeah.
Sir, which is your favorite holiday destination?
I go to Turkey a lot because when I went to Turkey the first time, it was a very it was a spiritual journey, if I may. I mean, in terms of the infrastructure, the love, the hospitality that you receive from the people, and just their infrastructure again, because we are talking about infrastructure. And I liked it so much that we even, it's a beautiful place. And I recommend that if anyone wishes to go to Turkey, this is definitely the place to go.
Sir, it is said glitches make you learn. So there must be some kind of embarrassing moment while you were struggling in the legal phase. So what was the most embarrassing moment in the legal phase while what that made you learn things from it?
I think that in law you are going to make mistakes. I mean, this is natural. But I think the one unfortunate thing is if you are standing in a court of law and the law that you refer to, the law that you cite, or your conception of the facts turn out to be completely different, and you are corrected by the judge at the spot. And this would be one of those moments, especially if you have not come prepared. Because like I said, you can come prepared from tooth to toe, but sometimes a judge's question will just take you by surprise. And so just standing by, that would definitely be one of those moments. But you would always be wanting to have some of your backup and way to bounce back and not end up just surrendering. Never surrender.
So favorite Chief Justice of Pakistan?
Well, there have been many, but I think Justice Cornelius, because I worked at Cornelius Lane Mufti, and something which we learned at our law firm was that he was the judge whose judgments are still respected, whose judgments are still appreciated. He was a living legend. And the way he conducted himself, his modesty, his lifestyle, and his dedication and commitment, which can be seen. I mean, these days, if you read some of the judgments, you just don't find that level of charisma, that level of fine attention to detail. It was as if that in that era, Justice Hamoud Rahman and certain other judges, I'm not just limiting it as that Justice Cornelius, but when you would examine and read their judgments, you would really feel that this is by an English judge. Whereas now when you look and examine some of the judgments, they are no more than 3-4 pages, and they miss the sort of it factor, X factor, that you could see in certain other judgments which were given by our very finest judges in the previous era or decades, as you would say.
Sir, how do you find the internship program introduced by Katana's Law Chamber in Pakistan for the internship program for the legal fresh law graduates? And what message would you like to give to the legal fraternity of Pakistan and the upcoming law generations?
Well, I just received word. I met with Mr. Anik, and he's a fine gentleman, and his idea and whole plan of starting this internship program, I think, is something which was long overdue, honestly speaking. Because in Pakistan, the grim reality for many law graduates is that when they come fresh from law school, there aren't enough opportunities. Nobody can get in big law or some of the finest law firms. Unfortunately, references and getting to know people is your access to the door of a good and premier law firm. And for those who get left out, there should be a means, there should be a way of being able to be brought up to speed of how law is actually practiced, some of the basic requirements of law. And so to this effect, this is the first time I've actually come across an idea which is being implemented by Mr. Anik at the Katana Law Chambers, and I certainly wish it good luck. And I think that this should encourage many other people to emphasize more on legal advocacy and preparing law students. Because so many times it so happens in civil courts, you see these law graduates and they have no idea about law. I mean, law schools do a great job in terms of teaching, but when it comes to practical application of law, it seems as they get the short end of the stick. So programs, internship programs such as these definitely are a must, and we are very grateful again to Katana Law Chambers for inviting me and for all of the work that they are doing.
Thank you so very much, sir, for coming up and sharing the legal knowledge with our viewers. And viewers, today we have discussed infrastructure development and law. We'll be coming up with our new episode of The Legal Opinion. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.